Uniform Education is the official recruitment sponsor for the SLT podcast. They specialize in SEN recruitment in and around London. So, if you are an SEN provision, a mainstream school, a local authority who needs specific SEN trained staff, make sure you contact Uniform Education and don't forget to mention the SLT podcast. Okay, welcome back to another episode of the SLT podcast. We still have Adrian McLean. I was saying I didn't introduce you properly. We just went straight into the conversation. That's why I don't like to speak to guests off air because we get diverted and so on and so forth. So, I'm not going to introduce myself. Please introduce yourself. Who are you? Tell us a bit about yourself and your journey before we get into our questions.
Oh, wow. That's put me on the spot. So I'm Adrian McLean. My day job is I'm an executive head teacher. I'm a father, husband, TEDx speaker, consultant, multitude of different things, governor, trustee for governors for schools, and somebody who's a huge advocate for people who look like us to move in the space of education, and getting more people into the top jobs in education.
And the reason why I can definitely account for that is because the first time I met Adrian, we were just saying this a few years ago, was at a event by Black Men Teach, and I know you've done a lot to kind of support them.
Yeah.
I know when they had a conference in Birmingham, you supported around that. So I can definitely attest he is somebody, maybe not somebody who's you see in the forefront doing a load of stuff like, but see somebody who's in the background supporting. He didn't know I was going to say this, by the way. So like supporting, mentoring, guiding. Social media sometimes can portray images, but I just wanted to affirm that this is somebody in the background for an extended period of time who has been mentoring, guiding many of us from the profession. So this is a time to kind of get him on camera, really get those questions. So before we even get down to the questions, you keep doing this thing like lightly. You did it in the last interview. I'm an executive head. Listen, executive head's a big thing, you know. Like, executive head is, how did you tell us your journey to exec head?
Wow. Okay. So qualified as a PE teacher.
Cool.
And at that point in time, the funniest thing is that my whole level of ambition was the top that I wanted to go to was to be head of PE, because for me, that was the best job in the world. Working with young people, delivering sport, two things that I'm really passionate about, that would be the best job in the world. I was scared about the fact of that someone's going to find me out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're going to work out and they're going to throw me out the door quite soon. But actually, what I realized is that once I got through the door and I started delivering and teaching, and the influence and the culture that I was building in school with the young people, and also to a degree the staff, was one of the, you got this, you can do this. And what I very quickly realized is that I was pretty good at it. And I was better than people who were higher than me on the rungs of the ladder, shall we say. And because of the competitor that I am, I was like, right, okay, let's do this. So I quite quickly became assistant head of year. I think I was still an NQT, actually. And the head teacher was reluctant to give it to me because I was an NQT. But it was like nobody else would do it. So I was like, I'll do it. So, I'm not shy in coming forward for those kind of things. So I did that. And then he wanted me to become the head of year, and I still wasn't really ready to be head of year. I didn't want to do that. And I went to then being a head of house, which was more around the development of the wider aspect of young people. So the developing I didn't have this language at the time, but it was developing the character, the personal development, and getting them involved in wider aspects than just academics. I then eventually relented and became a head of year, and I did that for a while. And then about 2.5 years in to the delight of my year group, I decided to step down because I was hard on them. I decided to step down and I became the head of PE. So I'd got the job that I always wanted. And that was around the time when we had the change in governments, and I saw the writing on the wall very quickly that PE was going to get squeezed. So then I started to think about what my transition needed to be. And that's when I started working in a wider aspect around teaching and learning and working with other teachers within school, aiming to get that assistant head job in terms of teaching and learning. Didn't work out quite that way. I became assistant head for data and assessment because, again, no one wants to do it. Give me that. I'll do that.
You're brave, man.
Yeah. But it's like it was a step through the door.
Yeah.
And what I recognised was that no one's going to open the door for me. I've got to kick it open.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I became... We still had specialist schools at this point in time. So I then took over the specialist schools and working within that element, which was great, and I really enjoyed it. And then the government changed, and we got the Conservative government that literally cut everything overnight.
Gove came in.
Yeah. So that role was for specialist schools went almost immediately. And then an opportunity to be seconded to an SEMH school, as we call it now.
Yep.
It was an ESBD school then. I went over to there, and I learned so much about myself, about education, and it kind of then shaped a lot of my leadership journey moving on from that. Because of the leadership of that school, I decided not to stay there. I was seconded for a year. I decided not to stay, so then I went back into mainstream and picked up a assistant head role for attendance and behaviour in a school that was rock bottom, special measures.
Wow.
Spent 2 years there, rebuilding those systems, got the school to good, and off the back of that, I got a deputy headship in a city Birmingham school, which was outstanding, and we had 4 great years there. And then that was kind of at the time then when multi-academy trusts were really starting to become a thing. So I was asked to go across to another school and do what I had done there because it was in trouble. I did that for a year, and then I got onto being a head teacher from there. The trust that I went to work for didn't really work for me.
Okay.
And we had some...
And that's okay.
We had some disagreements.
Okay.
You listen, and it's one of the best things that ever happened to me because it gave me a reality check, and it took me back into who am I, and what am I here for, and what do I stand for. And I left after a year.
Yeah.
Well, I resigned after a term, which wasn't the done thing. Everyone was saying, "Oh, you got to stay 2 years," and no, we're not doing that.
You?
So I left there, and then I went into a role with as part of the central team for a multi-academy trust, where I was looking at character and personal development. And that role quickly grew, and I ended up becoming responsible for everything that was student-facing. So I looked after attendance, behaviour, safeguarding, personal development, character, literally everything that was about children. SEND, that was my bag, my remit, and that was from a primary right through secondary. So I did that, and then because of circumstance, more so than choice, within the trust, there was some movement within roles, and I then became executive head teacher there. The trust got into financial difficulties, so I made myself redundant because there wasn't any capacity to take from schools.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit there in my
In all good faith.
ivory tower
Yeah.
whilst other people lost their jobs on the ground in school. So I took that, and then I went to work at the school I went to as a child for a term. That they asked me to come and work there, prospectively to be the head teacher, and of course because it was where I grew up, there was the heartstrings got pulled on. But again, I know, because I knew who I was and what I stood for, it didn't align with the multi-academy trust, so I left there after a term, and then I've been back in executive headship since then, with a very specific remit to rebroker the three schools that I look after into a new trust.
Interesting. Brilliant. That is a journey. That is a serious journey. So just to let you know, that's why we're speaking about leadership today, because that is a serious leadership. And I know we mentioned it in a previous episode. Just remind the viewers the name and the possible release date we're looking at for your upcoming book.
So my book's called The 10 Character Commandments of Leadership, and it should be on sale at the end of April.
Don't worry, we haven't got a copy, but Amy's gonna send us a copy, and we're gonna make sure we promote it. It's gonna be here. All right, so let's get into some of the questions. So this is from a senior leader, and I remember having a similar question before, but the question goes and I know senior leaders will be able to relate to this, and it kind of touched on things we spoke about. As a senior leader, a lot of us are under constant pressure. Behaviour, staffing, outcomes, safeguarding, all these other things, yeah? But how do we know if we're actually leading or we're just managing day-to-day pressure?
That's brilliant question. And I spoke about this conference earlier in the year, and the tagline that kind of went viral from it is that I said that education doesn't have a values problem, it has a pressure problem. And what it means by that is that virtually every school in the country now has a set of values.
Yeah.
And they'll put them up on the wall, they're in reception, they're on the website, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But when the pressure hits, do we live those values? And as a character education scholar and academic, the difference here that we're talking about is that when we say that we have certain values, that might be resilience, it might be respect, it might be perseverance. Yeah. Doesn't matter what it is. It's easy to state that we value those things, but I want to talk to subscribers about the switch to virtues. Values are what we say is important to us. Virtues are what we do, how we behave. So if we say that we have respect for people, I can say that, but it's a case of, do I do it? Do I do it in all my interactions with everybody, whether that's the cleaner, whether that's a parent who's coming in effing and jeffing at me, whether that's a kid who's just told me to do one? Doesn't matter. Do I treat them with respect? Yeah. That's the virtues that sit in that. So with regards to the question, quite often when the pressure ramps up, what we say we believe in goes out the window. And it takes a lot for people to draw the line and say, no, we're not doing that because it goes against our values. I've worked with a number of schools that have worked specifically on that, creating frameworks, and that's what we've been doing, looking at the frameworks that go, these are our values and what we say we stand for. When we make a decision, we have to refer back to this framework. That doesn't happen across the board. Pressure rises up, people just make it happen, make it go away.
Yeah, sorry, just repeat that again. What is it? Virtue? No, what is it?
Values are what we say is important to us. Yeah. Virtues are how we act and how we behave that underpins the value that we say that we have. Yeah. So a great example of that is we all value our health, right? Yeah.
Allegedly.
But how many times do we do behaviours that are not cognizant to us being healthy? Yeah. We don't get enough sleep. We'll put things off. I've just got to get through this. I won't exercise. Yeah. I won't eat lunch. all those things are detrimental to your health, but we value our health, right?
Yeah.
It's an easy one for people to relate to.
I love that. And again, I'll say the kids see it.
Yeah.
The kids see it all. The kids see it all. All right. Second question. This is one I come up against every day. Right. How do you challenge SLT when you know something isn't right? So, kind of there are moments where you know, and I've been in this position as a non-SLT member, where you know something's not right, be it a decision, a policy, a direction, but how do you challenge when they disagree without damaging relationships or their position?
So this is one that I've had to learn the hard way, because my younger self was very straightforward and righteous, would say and call it out and tell somebody about themselves. That's not the right way to do it, because as soon as you do that, people become defensive. So the thing that I've learned is to become curious and ask curious questions and say to people, okay.
Somebody else was on here and said that.
These
curious questions.
Honestly, because it gives you an insight into why they've made the decisions and the pressure that they're feeling. So it's like, okay, we've made X decision. Talk me through the process of why we got to that. How did you reach that conclusion? And then they'll answer it. And generally, in the first time around, it'll be quite superficial. So then you pick into different elements. So you'll say, okay, so you said that you followed the policy, right? Show me how that's following the policy. And do you think that the policy is reflective of this situation and actually enables you to deliver a verdict in a fair way? So then you get them into dialogue and you get them to thinking. That's the way to challenge. Because when we go direct and we say, this is wrong, thanks for that, but there's nowhere for you to go. Because what you've done is you've put the barrier up, and the barrier goes there, and it's like, I ain't listening to this guy. Who's he coming here? Who do you think he is? He can't come here and tell me no. Like, has he forgot who I am? I'm the head. You can't tell me.
Ego,
So that's what happens. But actually, if you sit there and you get into the dialogue and say, I'm just curious about how you got to that decision. Talk me through how you did that. And that is a way into understanding that. And then you can understand where they're coming from and their perspective. And it gives you the dialogue to then say, well, that's not how I see this or how the community sees this, because they will see that this has happened. And because that's not their perspective, they should then be more open to receiving that information and then go, you know what, I never thought about that.
Brilliant. You've kind of, the next question, you've kind of answered it already, to be fair, in your first question, but I have to ask it. I'm going to ask it because it might give you the opportunity to expand. It says, okay, so this seems to be from, as opposed to another staff member. So we've all worked with leaders who say the right things about inclusion, behaviour, school culture, but their actions do not always match, which is only human. Why does this gap exist, and what does it do to a school? And I think that last bit is a fundamental bit.
So this spends all of the things that I sort of stand for and what my book is about, in that we have values and we have virtues. So what we say and what we do often never align. They're like this when we need them to be like that. And essentially, it's about that level of accountability and people calling it in, like saying, Adrian, I know that you said that we were going to do this. I haven't seen it. Talk to me about this, and so on and so forth. And having that conversation in a one-to-one setting versus calling it out in a public setting and saying, you said we were going to do this. I haven't seen it, because that's not going to work. That might actually be the way you end up going to, but you've had that conversation one-on-one first. So those are the bits that are there. But again, essentially, it comes back to, who do we say that we are as a school, as a leadership team, what we stand for, what do we doing? Because if we're saying that we've got, resilience, perseverance, respect as our values, right? But we're not showing that.
Yeah. In anything that we do. Yeah.
We've got to have that conversation. So again, it comes back to that conversation. What it means for the school is all of those things that you just alluded to. Parents are going, well, you say this, but you don't do it. So why am I going to believe you?
The local community.
Why am I going to entrust you?
Yeah.
Staff go, what's the point? Because we say that we're going to do one thing, but we do another. So all of those things, everybody's watching how you behave, how you carry yourself, and how you deliver what you say that you're going to do. So essentially, if you're a leader and you're leading something, you've got to ask yourself those questions first and foremost. The second part is, because that's your integrity. If I say that I'm going to do it, I need to do it. The second part of it is around your level of courage. And these are fundamental things for all leaders. You got to have courage to have those conversations. People go, oh, I don't want to have a difficult conversation. It's only difficult if you label it difficult.
Yep.
So I've got to have a professional conversation with you, Ziggy, because these things haven't happened. We said we were going to do them. What's going on here? Why haven't these things happened? So we open that dialogue there, and then we get into some curious questions within that. That's what we've got to do. So we have to have integrity and say, that's who we are. This is what we said we were going to do. This is what we've got to do. You've got to have courage to have those conversations. And then third and foremost, it's about that level of accountability. I haven't done this. And that's a case of, I haven't done it. I need to own that.
Yeah.
You're right. So it's that little bit of looking in the mirror.
Yeah. Do you think, just as an add-on question, do you think it's hard for a lot of leaders? Because I think once you're in that, it can
pressure. Pressure.
Yeah.
I gotta get results.
Yeah.
I don't care how they get them, just get results. That's how a lot of the leaders operate. And I know that's a sweeping statement to say, but that is how a lot of people operate. It's like, I just need you to get results. I don't care how you get them. But we should care.
Yeah.
Because this is young people's lives.
Yeah. It's like what we were saying earlier on. This isn't like a FTSE 100 company. We're just simply looking at the numbers going up. We're dealing with the all right. So this is going to be our last question. It's going to be hard hitting. I know you've done some work in the quote unquote DEI space, and I know it's in a lot of schools. There's been an attempt to shift. Let me not say schools and educational institutions. So a lot of senior leaders are now expected to lead on race and inclusion. So they're supposed to have an understanding of what that looks like. But let's be honest, if a leader hasn't done the personal work and examined their own bias and their own experiences, can they genuinely lead on that agenda? So can a staff member who hasn't truly challenged and done the work lead on in that space?
No is a simple answer. And it's quite a straightforward answer. So this is what I experienced personally. When George Floyd was murdered in 2020, loads of schools jumped out of the gates. Oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to change the curriculum. We're going to diversify the curriculum. We're going to do all of this stuff. They didn't know what they were doing because they hadn't confronted their own personal biases and the biases of the staff that they were working with and leading. And until you do that, you can't get over the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Because it will go so far. You can give people all the material, you can teach them how to deliver it, but it means nothing because those same biases and the barriers still exist.
Yeah.
And until we get to looking at those barriers and confronting them and giving a hard look and saying, you know what, I do talk to this group of students differently.
Yeah.
A quick anecdotal example of that. I work with staff in one of my roles around how could they get better classroom behaviour. And one of the things that we used to do back in the days was that I used to go into the classroom, I would sit at the back and I would observe. Of course, we didn't see the behaviour that was happening because the kids all knew that I was there and were like, listen, if we do it, McLean's going to he'll deal with me, right?
Mr. McLean's
Right? So that didn't work.
happen,
So
yeah.
what we did is that we got a small camera and we filmed what was going on in the classroom because the kids didn't know it was there and the teacher forgot it was there. Right? We had consent from the member of staff to do because they wanted to do the work. Anyway, recorded this lesson with this group, and the homework was that member of staff had to watch it, I had to watch it, and we were going to meet 2 days later with our observations.
Brave member of staff.
Yeah, because she wanted to be better, right? And she didn't like the fact of that she was unable to control this particular class. So essentially, what she recognised, I hadn't even watched the video.
Yeah.
She emailed me that night and said, "Oh my God, I need to talk to you in the morning. I've watched the video; it's horrendous." So okay, hadn't even watched it yet. And what she picked out is that she was completely unconsciously biased towards certain students in the classroom.
Yeah.
And when other kids were doing the same things, she was not challenging them.
Yeah.
And those kids then were going, well, hang on, miss, he's doing that. You ain't saying nothing to him, but you're picking on me. And she was like, no. And then it would escalate.
Yeah.
When she saw it with her own eyes, she then had to take a different approach. That's an example of what we're talking about here. If you don't know that you don't know, you're not going to do anything different. And that's the key thing. It's never going to change until we confront that. Now, most people don't want to do that. And again, this comes back to a pressure thing. I haven't got time for this. I've got these 17 sets of books to mark, and you want me to come in here and you want me to do this training session.
CPD,
I've got other stuff to do.
And if they do, they sit there like that.
And then this is the pressure thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you're right. And they sit there like that. And they're not listening because they're thinking about, I've got to do all these things. When am I going to get them done? Or they're not even paying attention because they're sneakily doing something.
Yeah.
That's the situation we've got ourselves into. And that ultimately, until we, as a profession and as leaders in individual schools, say, here is the line and we are not shying away from it, that's not going to change. The difficulty with that is, and again, some people are going to think that this is harsh. Most of our leaders, it isn't a problem to them because it doesn't affect them personally. It's not that they don't agree with it. It's not a problem to them because it's not their lived experience.
It's not a priority.
It's not a priority. So therein is a number of the barriers that we have to overcome.
Beautiful. Well said. All right. So as we wrap up this episode, if there's one thing senior leaders need to reflect on, so for the upcoming term, there's one thing that you think they need to reflect on, what would you say it is?
Who are you? What you stand for? So what are your personal values? What are the virtues that underpin that? And how do you apply those in your everyday work? So if you say, for example, that you are respectful, do you treat every person that you interact with respectfully? Right? When the pressure rises, does that change? I want people to look at that, and I want to think about, particularly as we go into, if you're secondary and if you're year 6, it's pressure time. The chips are down now, and everyone's cooking in hot grease, right? So the pressure's on. So what are you doing? What does that look like? So the things that are important to you, are you really touchy? Are you shouting at people? Are you under pressure? Are you getting the things done? And if not, you have to come back and you have to look, why is that? We all know it's pressure, but what are the core foundational pieces of your character that you are not going to compromise when that happens? That's what I would ask people to look at.
Brilliant. Listen, again, appreciate your time so much, sir.
You're most welcome.
I've enjoyed this episode. Please, guys, remember to like, share, subscribe, comment. Especially, my favorite one is share. Please share this amongst your networks. Share this amongst your teacher friends. We like it when this is the cooler room talk in the staff room, or staff room talk. That's what the SLT podcast should be, which is challenging you to really kind of think and have conversations. So, yes, make sure you're doing all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next episode of the SLT podcast.